Howdy folks, David Gonzalez here. This video comes as a request by the user Rufus. He asked me he asked me for how I make low polygon eyes for game assets. So I figured I'd just go over the whole process, taking a high polygon taking a high polygon model that I made in a program like Sculptress and how to bake all that information onto a low polygon model that I retopologized in Blender. Right? So I've got this thing set up. I'll go over the retopology later, but everything's set up and ready to go. So let's just dive right in. The process of baking is done through the render. Is done through the render panel, and it's the camera. It's the camera icon here on the. It's the camera icon here on the right. So you want to scroll all the way down, and you see bake, right? So bake from multi-res, bake clear. We're not baking from multi-res, right? So if you had bake from multi-res on, just check that off, and now you can see that we have bake normals. A bunch of different things pop up. We can bake specular colors, specular intensity, mirror intensity, alpha emission. The one that we're going to be focusing on right now is going to be textures, normals, and if you want, you can also do an ambient occlusion. We'll do the ambient occlusion. Let's see, anything else? We're not going to be doing a displacement map. Emission, we're going to do that by hand. And specular, color, specular. We're not going to do the specular either. Alright, so the ones that we want. Textures is the albedo. Alright, so basically the raw color of your the raw color of the model. Normals is the normal map. So this is going to be the high definition details that we're going to force onto the low definition model. Ambient occlusion, that's done through the display. We'll have to set up the ambient occlusion first, but let's just dive right in. We'll do the head first. Alright. So here's the head for the model, ready to go. Now, if I go to the UV image editor and enter into the object mode, or enter into the edit mode, this is the old map that I have. I'm going to go over this. I'm going to overwrite this. So image, new image. Keep your images in multiples of 1024. For the process of this video, I'm going to keep my texture at 1024, but you can go 2048, or your 4K texture 456, right? But I'm gonna stick with 1024 for now. All right, and let's go with UV grid. Shut off alpha. I don't need that. And we're going to name it new face. Hit OK. So what I'm going to do, when you have your model, when you have all the seams put in for your model, you go to the UV mapping tool, which is under U, press unwrap, and it does this is the default projection that you get from Blender. Now, for me, I kind of find that it spaces the detail out evenly over the head. Let me just create a quick material for this to show you. There. So it's spaced, I guess, kind of evenly. You can see in the back how it's a little tighter. This means that I'm getting a lot more detail back here than I am up here in the front. This is the business end of the model, so I want the bulk of my detail to be here. So, really quick, come into the UV editor, and you can grab the UVs and move them exactly like how you would move any geometry in your 3D window. So here, a good tool to use is the L tool, and L selects the island, right? So each one of these is what Blender calls an island, right? And these are the eyelashes. So if I want to just select the head, I hit L, as opposed to hitting A, which would select everything. L just selects the particular island that your mouse is hovering over. So I'm going to move this towards the middle. I'm also going to want to rotate it a bit so I can get it in there, right? Rotate it so I got it on the diagonal. I'm going to do is zoom into the nose area, picking here this more or less a center point on the face. We're going to scale up from this point, but we're going to scale up using proportional editing. And then by using your center mouse wheel, you can scroll to expand the influence of this. You can scroll with a mouse wheel to expand the influence of the scaling. So here you can see I've got some pretty bad stretching, so let's try this again. The idea is that I want to maximize how much detail I get in the center of the face while using the absolute minimum for the back. Now we can just move. Now we just move the move our mesh to center it in the map, and there you have it. So now we can get a little bit more detail. We can squeeze a little bit more detail out of our map in the area where we want it the most. We can probably go in and just do that scale trick one more time. You see here it updates live as you move it in your as you move it in the UV editor, you see that it updates here in your 3D view. So okay. And I want to leave enough room on this map because I'm going to put the eyeballs in here too. The eyeballs we're going to do manually. So now I just want to bring the eyelashes in. And that's how I do the this is the trick this is how I do the UV unwrapping for the head. Okay, so now we got the dummy map on, so we can look at it. I don't have any stretching that's too egregious. Maybe here in the ear. So let's see what's going on there. Guess. I can live with that. I'll bake a texture and we'll see how we'll see how badly it pixelates there. If it's not, I'll live with the results that I get. All right. So when you bake, here's one of the mistakes that I used to do. When you bake your texture, you want to be baking your texture in, let's go to material view. When you bake the texture, you want to be baking your texture in the edit mode of the low polygon mesh that you're going to be applying the texture to, right? So go into object mode, right? You're going to select your high polygon model first. In this case, it's Sam head to blender. This naming convention I used because this is the high polygon model that I was going to send to Blender. So Sam head to blender, and then Sam's head is the one that we're working on now. So by holding shift and clicking in the hierarchy on the Samus head, I've now selected both. So now I go into tab into the edit mode, and this gives me access to the vertices in the UV. Okay, so now here in the UV map mode, or here in the UV window, we can look at the progress that we make. Go into the camera options, or the render options that's shown by the camera. Go down to the bake window. Make sure you're set to normal, because we're going to burn the normal map first. This one's important. The normal space has to be set to tangent, and this basically means that it's going to force the geometry from tangent, force the map from tangent geometries. Selected to active is, yeah, selected to active means that it's the selected one is the Samus head to blender. The active one is the Samus head that we're now currently in its edit mode. Alright, so now I'm going to hit bake, and everything should go fine. If you get weird discolorations like here, you can tweak the bias up a little bit, and the bias gets the arrow for the bias tweaks it up by 0.1 increments, and we can try to bake that again. Oh, circular reference and texture stack. Alright. That error that I just got, the circular reference and texture stack, is because I have the texture currently active. So we're going to get rid of the texture on the low polygon model that we're baking to. That's why I'm getting the error. So with that out the way, if we go back to the render options and hit bake, now it should be able to bake without a problem. Alright, and here's our new normal map. Now, you want to go and save this, save image as, new face, I should have called it normal, new face, normal, hit save. Now, the problem that I was doing, right, is I would do this in the object mode. I would bake in the object mode, and when I baked in the object mode, I would create a new image still in the object mode. So let's make a new image. I'm going to call it new face color, and keep everything the way it is. So now here's my new image ready to go, right? And I'm going to switch from normals to textures because this is just a color thing. We're going to bake, and yeah, it overwrote the normal map, right? So here's the new face color, but what it did was it went to new face. The reason why is because you didn't tell Blender to assign a UV map to that new image that you made. So you want to go into the edit menu, or you want to go into the edit mode of the object that you're going to be baking onto, and you want to make sure that Blender knows this new map that you've created belongs to this current UV. So you can go to the UV object data, or rather you go to the vertex data of the object, go down into your UV maps, and make sure that the UV map is selected, and that Blender knows that this current image that you have active with the UV map on is the image that you want to bake to. Right? So now if I hit bake, it should work. Right? So save image as, new face color, and let me repair that. This is supposed to be a normal map. Now again, because I'm currently in the edit mode and I have the UVs selected, Blender knows that when I switched over from new face color to this new face, which I should to new face normal. There we go. So Blender now knows that when I switch over from new face color to new face normal, that this is the map that I want to bake the normal map onto. So when I hit bake, there's your normal map, and it's overwriting the correct map that I want. It's overwriting on the correct map that I want to make. So now I can just do a regular save, and when we go into our material, Samus head material, what is it? The material is already there. Now I just got to create the image textures for the material. So Samus face, new normals. Let's shut off the high res. For this now you can be in object mode. Alright. It's not so bad. Ears are fine. Okay. So go into so load the texture in place, right? Image, new face normal. Go scroll down to image sampling. In image sampling, make sure that normal map is selected and that it's set to tangent. And then you scroll down to mapping, main map, and then the influence. It's not color that we want geometry. So it's already set to a default of 1. If that's a little too rough, it's a little too pronounced, you can scroll it down a bit till you get an effect that you're happy with, right? Scroll back up, repeat the process with the color map. New, go to image, select the new face color that we made, and pretty much everything should be good to go from there. Image sampling is fine. You don't need to set this, so you can leave image sampling alone. Image mapping. Mapping is the one that we want. Main map. It defaults to the top map, but to not be sloppy, it's good to specifically tell the texture what map you want it to use. Color, that's fine. And we can actually even use the same thing for specular color and intensity. Okay, so now let's go over this one more time, and we're going to do the body. Same process applies. So, Zero Suit Samus is my low polygon model. It's already got the seams ready to go. Okay, and in this case, I am not going to redo the UV map. I'm going to keep the UV map that I already have. Okay, good. And alright. So, Samus to Blender is my high resolution object file that I brought in from Sculptress. Shift click Zero Suit Samus, which is my low resolution one, and let's kill. Do I have? Alright, there are no textures right now connected to the Zero Suit, so I shouldn't get that error that I got before. Let's create a new image. I'm going to call it new Zero Suit normal, and I'm going to keep the size the same again. Now I want to go into the edit mode, and you see when I jump into the edit mode, because I forgot to do that before I created the image, when I jump into the edit mode to access the UVs, it goes back to the old default UV map, or the old default, normal map. So what I want to do is tell Blender specifically, no, I need you to bake onto this new map that I'm creating, right? So there's new Zero Suit normal, UV texture grid, go to the render options, go to bake, make sure it's set to normals, tangent space, select it's active, bias 0.1. It's been working pretty well so far. Alright, so that map is done. Let's save the image, save as image. It's named properly, so I can just hit save. Image, new image. And again, this one we're going to call it new Zero Suit color. Hit OK. And since I already have that UV map active, the new image is automatically attributed to the UV map. So now just go into bake normals, and change it to, where are you? Textures, there we go. Textures, hit bake, and now it should map out the colors. So again, remember, when you bake out your maps and you're going through all the different textures and you're creating new textures to bake, make sure that you're in the edit mode with the UV that you want to use as your map. Make sure that you're in the edit mode with that UV map active, and then that way Blender knows that the new image you've created, you want associated with that UV map. Save as image. And now for Rufus, let's go do some eyes. I can now shut off the high resolution. I can now shut off the high resolution stuff. Let's go into put in these maps. New zero suit color. Zero suit normal, and again image sampling normal with tangents, UV map, not color but geometry, and the texture one, really all we have to do is just set the UV map. Tab, eyes. So for Rufus now, here are the eyeballs. Now you want to build these with using UV spheres, but you want to build them in multiples of 2. And here I have 3 examples, starting with this is, I believe, 8. So this is with 8. This is with 8 rings, this is with 10, and this is with 12. Right? So go up incrementally by 2. So depending on how, also I'm in orthographic view if the face looks weird. So it's up to you. For like a main character, if you're doing close-ups, if you're actually showing the character's face, if you're zooming in, then maybe a 10 or a 12 will work well. If you're doing if you just want an eye, if you want an eyeball there, 8's perfectly fine. So to make these, alright, I just built them to illustrate. Yep. So I'm going to delete. Now to create an eyeball, all I'm doing is, oh wait, sorry. Screencast keys. Shift A to create a UV sphere, and I already had it set to 10, so we'll go with the 12. So 12 segments, and ring-wise, I usually do half of what my total segments are, just as a starting position. All right. So now rotate X 90. Go into orthographic view. I want to scale that in a little bit. Let me see. Let's change it to median point. There we go. All right. From here, because we're looking at the front of the eyeball, go in and you're going to select the center vertices, because remember, it's now all these vertices are now meeting in here into this one center point, right? So click that vertex, click that vertex, click the eye on the outside. Yeah, click the vertex outside, and delete edges. Will leave you with clean quads or clean 4-point patches. And this is why we want to work in even increments of 2. Because you'll always be able to, you'll wind up with 4-point patches here at the front. Now in the back, we don't need this geometry because this geometry is going to be in the back of the head. So just by selecting this rear vertex here and Control plus to expand once, delete vertices, will delete up to that ring. It's a bit square, so go into tools or option, no. Smooth shading. There we go. Okay. So now we need to build an iris. To do that, Control R gives you the loop cut tool, and you want to cut a loop. You want to cut a loop on this edge loop here. It's the second one in. It's actually the first edge loop you get. This isn't an edge loop. This doesn't make an edge loop because of how the geometry is set up here, right? So the circular edge loop is going to be this second ring coming out from the center, right? Now once you have the edge loop in place, you can slide it in and then press left click to set it. Now we can take this edge loop, or rather we can take this edge. It's not an edge loop, but we can take this edge and with Control E, go to edge slide and bring it in. And now that will set up the basis for our iris. So this point here will be our pupil. You can just grab that, slide it back on the Y. I have proportional on, sorry. Disable proportional editing, grab Y, pull in. And again, this is low polygon, so this should be fine for our purposes. Now, remember that the iris kind of pulls in, it kind of dips inward, so you don't want it sticking out like this. What you'd want to do is actually draw that in a little bit. So click the center vertex out and then grab it with G, use Y to constrain it to the Y axis and draw it in. Now if you want to give it a rounder shape, you can add one more edge loop here, and then hit escape to just block it into its default position. Then with Alt S, which is scale, Alt S scales in and out on the direction of the normal. So by using Alt S, by using Alt S as a scale, you can scale out this vertex, you can scale out this ring and to maintain a circular shape. So now let's get this. Okay. We want to select everything, or select the eyeball entirely, and now we want to place it into the head. You know what? Before we do that, since we have it out here and it's easier to collect, or it's easier to select. Let's go into our vertex data. Now, all right, so I cleaned up my vertex groups. Deformation head, deformation jaw. Should have a deformation neck in there, but I'll be able to add that when I put the skeleton back in. So here's our eye, and let's make this. We want to assign this to a group, so we're going to create a vertex group. We're going to call this the left eye. Left eye. And assign it. Now we want to also create left iris. All right, and assign that as well. And now we have good. So our eye is set and assigned. We'll just move this into place. Alright, so the left eye is in position. To put the right eye in position, it should be, let me see if we go to visual origin, Shift a D to duplicate, and oh, I know what to do. Shift C will recenter the 3D cursor at the center point. Change this here to 3D cursor, and what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to scale X -1, and that moves the eye over to the right position. So now with that selected, what we want to do is we want to hit remove on left iris and remove on left eye, just in case. I noticed something here too. Might have screwed that up. Let me see. So select left eye, hit assign again because I think I assigned the wrong weight to it. Alright, so back to the right eye. We're going to assign, and now just want to double check that my selections are working properly. See, no. So that messed up. Going to remove that and try it again. Assign to left iris. So left eye, select, is good. Right eye, select, good. Right iris, select, good. Okay. Let me just tweak once again, just need to tweak my eyelids. Give me a second. Proportional fall off, if you set it to connected, you see how right now it's just manipulating the head, right? If I had it enabled and I moved it, it would manipulate everything within a sphere of influence. If I have it connected, it moves it only in a connected sphere of influence. So that's what connected means when you're playing with the proportional fall off or the proportional editing. Okay. Fantastic. All right. So now that we have the eyeball set up, what we're going to need to do is we're going to need to add those to our UV map. So we'll split the screen, go to our UV image editor, and new face color, right? What you're going to do is you want to click anywhere on the eyes, and then with Control plus on your number. Yeah. Let's use our vertex groups instead. So now that we have those selected, right, we have our eyes selected, go to the image box here, new image color or new face color, and hit U, unwrap, and it'll unwrap the two eyeballs. So select, scale them down, and let's bring them into the corner here, because this is where we're going to put the eye. Now, what's important to remember is the count from this center vertex, right? So the first ring outside of this center vertex is going to be the pupil. The next ring out is going to be the iris, right? So this is our pupil, and now I'm selecting the iris. Okay? That means that the rest of this is all sclera, right? This is the white of the eye. So what you want to do is you want to scale this out using that proportional fall off trick to maximize your pupil area, or rather maximize your iris area, while minimizing the sclera area. Same thing here. Okay. So that'll do the mapping for the eye. Now we just actually have to use an image editor to get eyeballs onto this map, right? So let me just save. And if you select, go into your 3D window, right? Your 3D view window, and select everything. Now you see the entire UV map, right? And so that's how we were able to add the eyes to the UV map without having to remap the whole face. And what we're going to want to do is under the UVs menu, there should be an export UV layout all the way at the top. Samus face UV. Save it as a PNG. And now you just open it up in an image editor. Okay, folks, still having trouble doing video capture from my 2D software. So I went ahead and I prepared the material with the eyeball, so I'm just going to replace what I got. Okay. So now it's just a question of coming in and adjusting the UV for the eyes. So remember that hitting L allows you to select the individual islands. You can already see that in the 3D window, the position is updating. And I wonder if I probably... Yep. Okay, hold on a second. When I did the trick to duplicate the eye and then mirrored it onto the left, I forgot that inverts my normals, so flip normals. There. There's the eyeball. And now if we go to the left eye, we'll be able to adjust that. Okay. That's weird. Why? Well, that is certainly interesting. I don't know offhand. Maybe it's just the lighting, but I don't know offhand why the that eyeball is darker. Huh. It's because the normal map was, the UV map was flipped. That's interesting. Alright. So, there you have it. So, there you have it. Fairly detailed tutorial on how to do the low polygon eyes, and how to do low polygon character assets. So I'll do a retopology demo later, and I'll go over the different tools that I use for creating low resolution topology over a high resolution mesh. Okay, folks, thanks again for subscribing. Okay, folks, thanks again for subscribing. Rufus, I hope this helps. I hope this answers some of your questions. And, okay, folks, thanks again for subscribing and tuning in, Rufus. I hope this answers some of your questions. I hope you guys found this useful. Remember that when you bake your textures, to be in the edit mode of the mesh that you're baking onto. All right. Otherwise, you're gonna be baking over your old textures over and over and over again. All right. Okay, folks. So please like, comment, and subscribe. And if you want to help this channel grow, please share it with your friends and encourage them to subscribe as well.